The essential problem now is the meaning of the expectation measure. What exactly does it take to put the promisee in the position she would have been in had the promisor performed? We have two cases. In American Standard against Schechtman, American Standard decided to close its pig iron manufacturing plant and agreed to sell the buildings and equipment to Schechtman, a demolition and excavating contractor. The deal was that Schechtman paid $275,000, plus they promised to remove everything and grade the property. Schechtman breaches the contract by not grading the land. The cost of completing performance is at least $90,000, and perhaps as high as $110,000. The breach reduces the value of the land by $3,000 at most. As you read, the trial court measured damages using the cost of performance, and that ruling is affirmed on appeal. In Peavey House against Garland Coal Company, Garland negotiates a mineral extraction lease with the Peavey Houses, giving the company the right to strip mine the Peavey Houses' farmland for coal. The lease requires Garland to restore the land after its strip mining operation is completed. Garland breaches by not restoring the land. The cost of performance is estimated at $29,000, but the Peavey Houses seek just $25,000 in damages. Testimony at trial established that restoring the land would only increase its market value by $300. The jury, confronted with surprisingly vague instructions from the court, gave an apparent compromise verdict of $5,000, which was substantially more than the market value of the entire farm. The Oklahoma Supreme Court rejects the cost of performance measure and awards instead $300 as measure the difference in value between the restored and unrestored land. The court relies heavily on a test of relative economic benefit to determine whether to award the cost of performance. Notice first that the facts of Schechtman and Peavey House are in many respects identical. Both involve contracts for the extraction of a resource from land, and a breach of the extractor's promise to restore the land. In both cases, the cost of performance greatly exceeds the value of performance, measured by the change in the market value of the property that performance would produce. However, the rulings in these cases could not be more starkly in conflict with one another. In Schechtman, the court concludes that there's no economic waste of the sort found in Jacob and Young's against Kent. Nor is the promise to grade the property incidental to the main purpose of the contract, as in Peavey House. So they award damages based on the cost of performance. In Peavey House, the court acknowledges that ordinarily the damage rule is to award the cost of performance. But here the court concludes that the cost of performance is grossly disproportionate to the value of that performance, and that the restoration provisions were merely incidental to the main purpose of the contract. So the court gives only the trivial difference in value, $300. Notice that Restatement Section 348(2)b adopts the reasoning of Peavey House for cases involving defective or unfinished construction. The rule awards cost of performance if it's not clearly disproportionate to the value of performance. Otherwise, the promisee receives only the diminution in market price. As you saw from the references in these cases, this is the same principle underlying the rule of substantial performance from Jacob and Young's against Kent. One rather simple-minded explanation for the rule applied in Peavey House is that we need to avoid economic waste. As the court explains, the situations presented are artificial ones. It's highly unlikely that the ordinary property owner would agree to pay $29,000 for the construction of improvements upon his property that would increase its value only about $300. This statement implies that to order cost of performance would cause economic waste. Or more subtly, that we should consider the relative economic benefit derived from performance in deciding between the cost of performance and value of performance measures of damages. Analyze the facts of Shechtman and Peavey House closely, and determine whether ordering Shechtman or Garland Coal to perform would result in any economic waste. That analysis will lead us to quite a different understanding of the purpose of these rules, and the possibility that both cases were wrongly decided. Thanks for listening.